We are in for a very special treat this time around for everyone watching right now. I got one of the best analysts in the Counter-Strike space, someone who was more of a newcomer back in 2019 to now the heights of everything Counter-Strike related. You can hate him, you can love him, but this what I call, will be the official story of Mauisnake and your journey in Counter-Strike, your journey in life to get to where you are now. We've worked many shows together. We're good friends off the broadcast. I'm excited to do this one because I'm going to learn some stuff. There's things I know, but then there's stuff I know some people in the Counter Strike community don't know as well. So, Maui, are you ready for this? Are you ready to tell your story?
Yeah. I don't think there's anybody better to do it than you, James. I mean, interview extraordinaire. I mean, you get the absolute most out of the players. We've seen other people do those interviews. We know what it's like. So hopefully you get the most out of me. And no, obviously we have great rapport. I mean, going back to the We Play days, it's
Oh
just
yes,
I mean, we've done. I feel like every year we're doing at least 7 events together. So
definitely, definitely.
yeah,
I like how you say this, right? Get the most out of the players. I feel like it's going to be harder to get the most out of you because, as a broadcast personality and as an analyst, you know how to duck out of things as well, right? You've got that skill set at the same time. You can avoid
sure.
questions if you want.
Sure. We obviously can put a spin on it, but at least we fill the air.
Definitely,
We know how to
definitely.
yap too.
Yapping is what we do best, but it's you that's going to need to do the majority of it. I'm going to be listening and learning from it. So let's start with kind of your origins. We've got Mauisnake as a person. Growing up as a child, what was it like for you? Did you have some siblings with you? Were you an only child? What was that start like?
Uh, yeah, we're going way back. I mean, this is I am an only child. Was I grew up in primarily Northern California and Hawaii.
Nice.
I moved at the beginning of high school, roughly, to Hawaii, and then I went to college in New York City. So those are
Okay.
kind of yeah, those are roughly. I have spent time in other places that I've lived
Yep.
in. That's after I started working in this industry, but yeah, primarily 3 places I've lived in my life have been California, Hawaii, and
Now, from when I talk to you, right, you're very well articulated. You're smart outside of just Counter Strike and esports. But were you always a good kid in school? Was you always academic focused?
I I got a lot of good grades. I got good standardized testing scores, but I would say work ethic was pretty subject dependent. I think that's
Okay.
kind of how you end up in esports, where if you could just for every single subject try 100%, you probably just have a really normal successful job at this point. But I think for people like you and myself, we definitely fixated on our interests, and
Yeah.
the things that we didn't like, we didn't really give much effort in. I mean, I still did admittedly have a lot of I still did well enough in school. I mean, I did go to an Ivy League university.
Mhm.
So my I went to Columbia in New York, and when I got into there, the acceptance rate was probably like 5% of applicants got in. So
Okay.
yeah, I did a lot of good stuff in high school. I'll say
Yeah.
that. I was very focused on entertainment industry and journalism aspects, actually,
Mhm.
even all the way back to, I'd say, late elementary school, middle school, high school.
This
Very
makes a
similar.
lot of sense. This makes a lot of sense. Now, before we go too far into your college life, your university for the Europeans or the British people out there, growing up with your parents, right, and having like how they were they parents who were very pushy on your education, pushy on you to be a certain way? Did you have a lot of freedom as a child? What was it like from their side to you?
My parents definitely knew that exposing me to various arts and disciplines was a way to just get me to gear into something. I
Hmm.
feel like, yeah, I mean, they kind of went through the normal sort of family things like baseball or like basketball
Yeah.
they tried early on in my life. I tried musical instruments. I couldn't play anything
Oh.
today, but they just try to get me into those things. But then I think I think it was more or less because like they would take me to a lot of events.
Okay.
So for example, the Bay Area where I grew up had a lot of esports stuff actually. So even back when I was in, I want to say how long ago was I probably was in just barely double digit age. when I
Mhm.
first got my taste of actually even professional gaming. That was
Wow.
yeah, like the CGI, the Championship Gaming Invitational, happened in San Francisco for
Mhm.
its first season. It changed the name. I think people sometimes hear about that relic of like the CGS and the
CGS.
impact it
Yeah,
had.
yeah.
But the first season of it was actually called the CGI,
Mhm.
the Championship Gaming Invitational, before it became the
'Cause we
Championship
didn't
Gaming
know it was gonna
Series.
grow. We didn't know it was gonna become
Yeah,
anything. They could have just been a one-off.
exactly, exactly. And I went to the first events of those in studio in person, and so from a very young age I saw that esports was a viable. I mean, I don't know if I want to say viable, but it was some sort of,
It existed.
it existed. It was an industry that was growing. So they got me into that. A bunch of other little disciplines, events, different aspects of life, art, different arts and things like that. They showed me what they were, and so I knew a lot of things existed, I guess.
Nice. I got to ask quickly though. You said about musical instruments. What musical instruments did you try to play? What was
Oh, just
the?
piano. Just
Oh,
piano.
nice. Can you
Yeah.
still rock it a little bit?
I could probably play like a Coldplay song, like
Okay,
one Coldplay song
that's
maybe,
pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's
Considering you're not doing it anymore.
maybe not even all the way through. So, yeah. Just
Okay.
barely. I can't read music at this point if anybody
Yeah.
wants to know.
Okay, so we've got where you first saw a bit of esports, a bit of Counter-Strike action back then, but you also mentioned about some sports and stuff. Were you a sporty person by nature yourself? Like, were you competitively driven to compete in, say, the baseballs or the basketball?
Um, Baseball I was decent at. It was just little league though. It was like, when you're in America, if you're from, I don't know what the age starts at, 6 years old
Yeah.
till 13 or so. You're going to play in Little League until you get to high school. And then you consider joining what's called like the junior varsity or the varsity circuit, your
Okay.
high school team.
Yeah.
And I kind of played until the end of elementary school. Or so I basically played until I was 11 or no, like 12 or 13 maybe. And
Hmm.
then like I got up to like it. I guess like what the way I would consider it is I was in like the 80th percentile of players. I wasn't in the top 10% or 20% of players, but I was definitely like I was the lead hitter of the baseball team that I was on as a child because I just got
Nice.
on base really well. Like I think I could just read the pitch pretty well and then just decide like, do I swing for contact or do I, because I wasn't the biggest kid,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
knew like I could just react. I could react. I could say like, okay, that's a bad pitch. I'm not swinging at that. Whatever. So I got on base a lot. Like my on base percentage was really really high, but I wasn't slugging it. Okay, I wasn't
Okay.
like some. I wasn't made to be a superstar, but I was usually also an infield player, like just kind of nimble,
Yeah,
agile,
yeah.
good reactions. I think the
Nice.
reaction time is probably something that helped me playing CS and stuff too.
Yeah, yeah, of course. That makes perfect sense. And did you find in your like own nature that you were competitively driven at
Mm.
that point as well? Was that something that like can be a tangent to go into Counter Strike as well? You know, like you want to compete, you want to be the best. Did you have that nature?
I I don't know if I ever really considered myself to be a very competitive person at most disciplines in life until I'm not trying to zoom the conversation all the way forward, but
Mm.
probably until I became a broadcast talent because I
Okay.
think it wasn't really, if I wasn't really that passionate about what I was doing, let's say it was baseball or let's say playing the piano or even academics, then I don't have a competitive drive for the sake of being competitive,
Yeah.
but I have a competitive drive if I'm actually focusing on what I am doing. If I'm focusing on what I'm doing and I'm giving it my all, which I do today with my work, then yeah, I want to be the best that there is, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But if it's something that I just kind of like, I'm not going to get competitive about it.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So one thing you mentioned, you went from North Carolina to
California,
North,
California, but yeah,
yeah, to sorry, North California into Hawaii.
yeah.
How much of a culture difference or a change was that? Was this somewhere you spent time before? Obviously, you've got the Mauisnake name, but like, was this a family decision? What was the reason for it?
Um, well, I already had my grandma, and her lineage was is Hawaiian. Like they
Nice.
like I have Hawaiian blood.
Hmm.
So my grandma was born in Hawaii before it was even an American state. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So they were, yeah. There's, and my granddad on that side met her in Hawaii.
Yep.
So so they so yeah, I mean, it was something that I feel like my parents always loved Hawaii. They just got an opportunity to move there. It made sense. There was kind of a variety of factors. I'm not trying to get into my parents' personal
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
life about stuff like this, but it just made sense for them and for us as a family to move there. And so they just pulled the trigger on it. I was mad. I was really
I'm about to
upset.
say, I
I
was
was
going to
like,
ask, is it like a culture shock for you? And then
yeah,
obviously you're leaving friends,
yeah.
you're young. I know that's not too fun.
Yeah, no, it wasn't fun at all at first. I
Yeah.
was lucky that I had grown to an age already where I kind of knew who I was, and so I could integrate well. But yeah, no, culture shock wise, man. I went to a public school in California, like
Yep.
around San Francisco, and then I went to a public school on the west side of Hawaii. And I will tell you, in all of the time I lived in California, and like we had um I'd say we had a pretty interesting, like, the diversity in California for me was like we had practically every ethnicity under the sun was at my school at some
Okay.
point or whatever. But like in Hawaii, it was very, very strongly Asian. It was pretty
Mm,
Asian where I grew up in California, but it was like even more Asian
yeah.
in Hawaii, I would say. And surprisingly, but it's like Polynesian stuff. It's like Polynesian, it's like East Asian, it's like Southeast Asian, a little Southeast Asian, like Filipino. And I'm gonna tell you, the culture shock was every single day or every single week. That is, there was a fight. There was a fight like
Oh,
there were the very first day I got to actually, it wasn't even the first day. It was day 0. It was when I was touring my new high school before I even started, like, just getting a tour of the campus.
yeah.
I saw a Samoan girl grab the back of what I think was like a Chinese girl's head, grabbed her hair and like lifted it and started pounding it into the pavement till like blood was running down this small
Bloody hell.
Asian girl's head. And yeah, I was like, "Oh, this is different." I was
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
yeah,
this,
yeah.
this is really different than what I'm used to." Where we were like, I think I saw like legitimately one fight ever in like all the time that I was like growing up to being
Yeah.
like 13 years old or something. Like maybe like a push, but like literally like one, like some pushing, whatever. But
Yeah,
I mean
just
like
something.
a serious fight. Like I only see
Hmm.
maybe one ever before that, and I would see one a week, like one big scrap a week. The one good thing about Hawaii is that it's like the one part of America where our kids don't bring guns to school. Like I know this is
Okay.
like a morbid subject, but like,
That's a
but
positive.
people
That's a
people
positive.
there's like there's a mutual respect that people have when they fight there, where they as guys they'll rip their shirts off and then they just fucking go at it.
Yeah,
They like purely fists. Like people do get fucked up, but it's entertaining. And thankfully the one place that I sat in high school, um it was like kind of like prime center of the courtyard on these
yeah.
benches, and so my group of friends would stand up on our benches and then we could see everything. And there would just be like, sometimes there's no joke, like 6 guys all fighting, like 3 from a side. Like I don't even know what the beef is about necessarily. Usually it's over a girl. Usually they're
Okay.
fighting over a girl or something. Like some guy talks to a girl that was already dating another guy. It's mostly all relationship drama. Even girls were fighting because they were fighting over guys sometimes. It was crazy.
Of
But
course.
that's the big culture shock for sure. It was just the, like, people solve things with their fists.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a big move. And then, so you've moved over to Hawaii, right? You're living there now. And how much were you gaming at any point, say before Counter Strike? Did it start in California? Did it start in just early life, or was it in Hawaii that you moved over to this?
Definitely started with a Game Boy Color.
Okay.
Think Pokemon Blue was
Nice.
probably one of my first games
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
Like I think that was in kindergarten or so. Like so I was like probably 6 years old or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved on to N64. Then we did have a computer. I did play, my dad played RTSs actually. That's kind of what got me into
Oh,
PC gaming.
good
He
man.
played he played what was it called? Westwood game. So he played Command and
Mm-hmm.
Conquer. He was like a Tiberian Sun fan. He was a Red Alert 2 fan. He played like all of those all the way through, and then I played some of those a little bit. Um, but the first FPS game that I played, well, technically GoldenEye, but like I barely count that. Like
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
tried that
Everyone.
on the N64. But
Classic.
the first computer FPS I played, I'm pretty sure, was actually Command and Conquer Renegade. It was like their one FPS spin-off where you played as one of the soldiers in like RT. Like it's like you just take like I mean Command and Conquer games were an RTS, but this one they were like, okay, we're gonna make an FPS where
Yeah.
you're one of the soldiers in it, and you could get into tanks and missile vehicles and stuff like that. So I played that one a lot actually because it didn't have bullet drop. It had rail guns. It had
Nice.
so I felt like pretty early on that was kind of something I really gravitated towards. I actually
Hmm.
like the big like battlefield type of feel I played Battlefield 2 as well.
Yeah.
That was another early one for me. Yeah, I mean I was playing from single digit age and playing on computer games from like around 10 years old, I would say. In fact, a lot of my friends before we even played Counter-Strike, we were playing StarCraft.
Oh, good choice. And that makes sense of what you were saying in terms of like reaction time, because you got to be, people may not think about it because it's not an FPS, but in StarCraft, every decision you make has got to be so quick and be a step ahead, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a great game to learn games. If you
Yeah.
do if you get in on Brood War, you're probably if you play that to even like just beating hard computers, you're
Hmm.
probably going to be good at most games you play after that. I just
True.
think the way your mind has to develop for
Yeah.
playing that game is just it's pretty taxing and there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. So you're gonna have to you're gonna have to also the way the game worked where you have to realize like micro is so important and
Yeah.
like you can't just say select all units attack enemy's base. You actually have to like move them manually because they got stuck. Like
Yeah.
your characters would get stuck on just random ramps and things. So you'd have to fix things almost all the time. So you're kind of almost being like you're kind of cleaning things up as you're trying to carry out the objectives that you have. And I think that sort of learning curve, it's not something that I even think should be in modern game design, but it probably actually prepares you for games for the future.
It's like playing what's supposed to be a fun game on hard mode instantly and trying to go around the cracks in a game while
Yeah.
figuring out how to win at the same time.
Yeah, I think it just trains you for a life of not getting mad at the smallest inconvenience. Like people, I mean, admittedly, I think CS2 should be in a better state, but
Yeah.
I also like when a little jump doesn't work perfectly. I think some of my old gaming instincts are just kind of like, okay, I
Okay.
have to find a way around that, as
Yeah.
opposed to getting mad and just complaining that that's bad game.
That's good advice for everyone. Everyone can take a little bit of that right now, especially in the state we have for the game. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
this, this should take us nicely into how and when did you pick up Counter Strike? How and when did you find this game? What was it like for you?
So so my Steam account says I started playing in 2005.
Okay.
So that was when I was 12 years old. My friends in school who they actually told me to get on Counter-Strike. And so I went to people in America might know this place. It was called Fry's Electronics. I went to that warehouse store with my dad and we got it. But the problem is that actually I got Counter-Strike Source. I think I got a
Oh yeah.
bundle of Half-Life 2 and CS Source. I think they
Yep.
came together in a box and so immediately I buy that. I start playing CS Source. I play for like a week by myself, just jumping into 24/7 Dust 2 servers is kind of what I ended up fixating on. And then and then I just kept playing that, and I talked to my friends. I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, guys, I'm ready to play now." And then they're like, "We play 1.6." And then I'm like, "Oh, I have the wrong
Oh
game." And I'm not gonna lie, I went to a friend's house and played 1.6 before that, actually one time ever, and I was like, "This game looks bad." Like this game look I know that like now that's sacrilegious to say, but like that game like going from source back down to 1.6 when I'm a
yeah.
child and I don't really know if all the intricacies that might make 1.6 the better game today, I was like, I'm not going to do that. So I just kept playing Source, even though I wasn't playing with my friends.
Hmm.
And what happened is that I actually was playing on this. I played on this singular Counter Strike Source server. It was this West Coast hosted server. It was called Sick With It Gaming, called SWI.
I love how you remember
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, you have to remember your first clan. Like,
Yeah.
and so I just played on it all the time. It was probably like an 8v8 server. I think it was 16 players,
Mm.
and just got super raw at just like picking people through mid doors with the op. Eventually, the guys in the clan were like, "Okay, you should join our clan," which was just signing up for a website and joining their Ventrilo, I think it
Putting
was
the
at the
tag on
time.
your name and stuff, right? And then
Yeah,
yeah.
and what was It was really cool. It was super huge coincidence is that the suburb I grew up in America is called Fremont, California. And so this was probably not a wise idea, but back in like 2006 when I'm like 13 on the website, they're like, say everybody say where you're from.
Yeah.
And it's like that's something I don't want my child to do, by the way. I don't want my child who's 13 to write where they're
But
from to
back
a bunch of
then
like
we
internet
all did
strangers.
it, and it was a time where it was a little
Yeah.
bit less predatory than it is now. Like now the
Maybe.
predators are
Yeah.
way more active, but in those
Yeah.
times it was a little bit more like safe-ish in comparison to now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I do that and randomly, the guy that I've played with a handful of times on these servers, he's also from Fremont, California.
Yeah.
So and then even greater coincidence, I find out he's in my school district and he's the same age as me. So
Okay.
so actually, yeah. So when I was in eighth grade or like 13 years old, roughly, I I went to like a rival high school in my district to meet a guy that was in my CS Source clan, and
Yeah.
that's one of my longest standing friends. Like he's still I
Nice.
yeah, I still see him every now and then, and we still play games, and yeah, it's pretty crazy to see how our lives have grown up over what's now 20 years
Yeah.
of knowing each
Yeah.
other and just gaming. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's the beauty of it. I love the fact that you started on Source by mistake, thought you were going to play the game that the guys in school were playing, and then got there and they were like, no. But I can imagine, I can imagine doing that, because imagine you buy a game and you've like, I've got the most up to date modern version, and then
Yeah.
they're like, go back and play this one. You're like, well, why would I do that? This is awful. This looks terrible, right? Because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
have that
exactly.
information of what is better and what works, or what is the cooler game to play at the time. So you obviously stuck
Yeah.
with Source, right?
Yeah, yeah. I stuck with Source. We kept playing in the Dust 2 server, but we all also got introduced to Cal at the time, the Cyber
Nice.
Athlete
Yes, yeah.
Amateur League. And so probably within my first, I'd say, year of playing the game,
Mhm.
maybe even less, maybe like 8 or 9 months, I was playing Cal Open, and you could still go to my Steam ID and look up on Legit Proof, which doesn't seem like it's as I like. I don't know if people go on Legit Proof or anything, but it's like it basically recorded everybody's league status back
Nice.
even 20 years ago. So if you search up my Steam ID now, I played up to what was kind of unfortunate. I don't know if it's unfortunate, but I kind of outgrew some of the people I was playing with in that clan, and like
Yep.
I got picked up to like an intermediate team, and then I actually got picked up to a main team, and yeah, I was playing pretty competitively for from when I was, I'd say, 13 to probably like 15 roughly before,
Yep.
well, I moved to Hawaii around when I was 15, so I had to stop. I stopped then, but
Okay.
yeah, I was pretty early on. I got introduced to the whole competitive circuit thing.
And your parents were obviously, you said your dad played games, right? He obviously went and bought the game
Yep.
with you, but were they supportive when you started to play maybe more hours, the balance, and playing competitive? Because I can know what that grind is like.
I think they were fine with it because I kept getting good grades in school, and
Nice.
I even was still able to keep up extracurriculars. Like I had a really bad sleep habit basically, where I was just like, I also was one of those kids where I just, as soon as I get to school, I'm just doing all my homework, and as soon as they assign homework in class, I just do all the homework while the teacher's still going through the lesson. Like I would just see it on the board and just like I'm almost like pretending that I'm paying attention in class while
It's like
just doing
this.
the homework that's
Yeah.
assigned that night. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and also I was even able to do some like other extracurricular journalism related activities too. So
Okay.
I was pretty on top of everything, but while still playing like after school almost every single day, I would take a nap for 3 hours. So from like 2 to 5 p.m. I'm asleep, and then I would stay up from like 5 to 2 a.m. every weeknight to just play CS. So I was
Okay,
just
you were
playing so
grinding.
much.
You were
Yeah, I was playing
grinding.
so much Counter Strike every day. Yeah.
So it makes sense why you were quickly able to go through these levels and ranks in Cal, right, and upgrade yourself in that. But then you said you stopped when you got to Hawaii. So was this just
Yep.
because of the change of scene, the change of environment? There wasn't people to play with. Like, why did it stop at that point?
It was ping, man.
Ah,
It's-
yeah.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
it okay?
yeah.
So I don't understand the dynamics of this, and a lot of people probably won't. How bad is it from Hawaii to if you're playing in other American servers?
You have like, so when I lived in California,
Mm-hmm.
if we played on a like a Dallas server or like a Denver server, I would get maybe like 40 to 50 ping, I think. But then from Hawaii, that jumps up to like 120.
So that's
So
like Europe to
uh,
Kazakhstan then.
Yeah, like 120 ping is not fun to play on any
Yeah.
version of Counter-Strike.
No.
But 50's okay. Like people will complain about that in Europe, I know, but like, yeah, it's
We're,
fine.
we're
Like,
kind of blessed. We have great ping.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 exactly. Everything's really close together in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so
Yeah.
at what point then did you ever think of maybe pursuing a career in Counter Strike? Were you that kind of competitive? Did you go to thinking I could be a pro player? Because you said you had a taste when you were 10 years old. You saw what the CGI was. You were obviously competitive and doing pretty well by the sounds of it. So was there a mindset of Mauisnake can be a pro player?
Yeah, when I was around 14 or so, I went to this LAN down in Southern California called it was a New Egg LAN
Oh, I
that
remember Newark.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was Showdown Land Newegg or whatever, something like that.
Mhm.
I think it was 2005 or 2006. Had to be 2000. I think it had to have been. And Complexity ended up winning that one. But I there was this side challenge thing. It was like a promotion thing for XFX graphics cards,
Mhm.
and it was called the XFX challenge. And what it was they had this like these PCs set up in like a 1v1 setting on a very basic aim map, and it was like it was a tournament where you yeah, it was just a tournament where you just 1v1 people, and I got to the grand finals of this thing, and the prize was if you win this, they were doing this. It was on Justin TV
Yeah.
where they would make it such that if you win this, you go on a van, like an RV van, like just, and then you do a cross country trip where they would that team of guys would go to various local lands and compete while also having a Cal invite spot. So
Nice.
I made it to the grand finals of that thing. I ended up losing it, but the funny thing is the guy that actually I think won it was already on a team. So he just was playing for fun. And so they actually they wanted to give me it, but I was a teenager. And so it didn't
Comes a bit
work out
harder. Yeah.
to take like 3 months out of my school to play Cal Invite and to travel while I should be just finishing grade school. Like my parents weren't
Yeah.
okay with that. You know, like well they kind of were thinking what's possible here, but
Hmm.
also but what's happening cuz that was a pretty big opportunity. That I mean that was essentially playing professionally at 14 and but I don't know. I kind of was not really in on it cuz I didn't really want to skip school and travel with these guys. Like it just didn't feel like that's a wise decision in life.
Okay.
And but what happened is that they actually ended up just kind of for to like kind of make it up to me in a way. They actually my school where I grew up in Fremont had like a internet club or like a computer club, and
Hmm.
so they actually came and we ran a big LAN, and I think Fatality was there,
Nice.
and I think Clown and Mo were there.
Okay.
Some of the players on the team were there, and then we kind of got like the five best players in my school. So and against their team, we got beat, but I remember I fragged out in that game and stuff like that. I just
Yeah.
like, I mean, we were. I mean, it was actually like strangely competitive for against an invite team, just because like I was really raw. Like I was really fucking raw at opping and source. Like I'm not. Yeah, that's like something like I was always like a really nasty opper. But
Yeah.
and like and I'm not. It feels like kind of crazy to say that because back in the day, but it's like they were literally gonna put me on an invite team. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it was.
There was a reason.
Yeah, yeah, it was, and I that's how I also got on a main team as well. Was kind of like playing through these kinds of things. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the exposure to me being pro. But I mean, jumping ahead, I mean like I don't know how much you want to jump ahead on this, but I never really, truthfully, like when I after college when I started getting back into Counter Strike,
Yeah.
I actually always had the goal of being broadcast talent. That was like literally my goal
So you had a
from
break though. So you had a break of like trying to
yeah
play in these cow leagues and stuff between school and college.
yeah. So I basically so because I was targeting like really I like difficult schools to get into,
Hmm.
universities, I was I just kind of also and Hawaii was kind of bad on high ping. I just kind of fully I was having a lot of fun. Like I was going out with friends and surfing a lot and stuff like that, but I also was like, okay, let me focus on school a little bit more too.
Yep.
And then when I was in school, when I was in a college or university, I I was like I was a Dota player because I just had a laptop and Dota and Counter-Strike, like this was around when I got into university, CS:GO was one really bad, and two, like 2012, 2013 CS, I think was really bad.
Yeah.
I think the game just felt horrible. And um and my laptop barely even ran it anyways. Like my frame rate would have been horrible. And so, but Dota 2 actually ran pretty well on my laptop. So I was actually playing Dota a good amount with my friends. We would play that after class, or sometimes we just skip class and play it. And then we'd and I was actually following the esports scene and seeing it grow in Dota. So that was kind of like keeping me locked into this whole esports circuit, where it's that even though, yeah, I wasn't really competing at that time, I still saw, I was like, there's $1 million tournament for Dota. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of thought that maybe Dota would be something that I end up doing,
Oh,
because of
wow.
the scene was just blowing up like crazy. And it actually really was, it took until I think it was Columbus when the first $1 million major happened, where I was like, oh, Counter-Strike's now on Dota's level. Like,
Yeah.
even though,
Playing
TI
catch
started
up.
getting really big. Yeah, but I was like, oh, that is really, like, that's really happening right now. And so what okay, I'll be real. Like my friends and I, when we were in college, were definitely those kind of like Reddit cretins. Like, we would watch the broadcasts and we'd be like, what the hell is this guy saying? Or what is that? What is that? What is she saying? What is that guy saying? Like
Yeah.
what is like, this broadcast is not very good. Like, we were just kind of like poking holes in the broadcast, and we were like, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about, or this guy wasn't even watching the game. And that's honestly when one of my friends, I remember talking in like 2014, 2015, and one of my friends, Rishi, who also went to my elementary school, middle school, still a guy that I keep in touch with. He and I were like, I think we were talking over Discord or TeamSpeak at that. I forgot what we were. It doesn't matter. And we were talking, and he was like, he's like, Alex, you definitely. I was like kind of pitching the idea, and he was like, yo, you could definitely be in one of those chairs talking about the game.
Mhm.
And that's when I was kind of like, you're totally right. And that's when I just like almost full pivoted. I was like looking
Okay.
at other aspects of what I would do post grad,
Yep.
but there's more to that. There's like another story there, but really, that's when I kind of like had the spark around 2015, where I thought to myself, okay, he's right. If they let me on one of the, if I work at it,
Hmm.
get on one of these broadcasts, like I had already, throughout college and university, I'd already been on camera. I'd already conducted interviews with professionals in their industries. Like I've
Interesting.
interviewed, yeah, I did assistant production for Dateline NBC in the 30 Rock, in New York City. Like, I was already doing stuff with cameras.
How
I was
old were
already
you
doing
then?
I was like, well, the first time I ever interviewed a professional would have probably been more for like a radio station,
Hmm.
when I was probably like, well, I mean, like really, really young. Like, no joke, probably like I was doing like, no joke, I did a lot of extracurriculars when I was in
Yeah.
grade school. I was I went to the Metreon in San Francisco's Walk of Game, where I talked to Shigeru Miyamoto's translator when I was like 8 years old. Like
What the
I
hell?
was,
What a crossover.
yeah, like the guy that made Mario, like
Yeah.
his translator. Like, I was doing I was already doing stuff like that from an extremely young age, and in a way, I kind of knew. Like, I improved over time. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't like A+ great analyst from day one, but
Mhm.
I definitely felt camera ready from the moment I stepped on a broadcast. Like, because I mean, when I was working at 30 Rock in New York, I think I was 18 or 19.
Okay. Okay. So you were real young doing this. And
Yeah,
then obviously you've already got this mindset. Like, not that you want to be a pro player, you want to go for the broadcast work. So
yeah,
what was it
yeah,
that you saw that made you passionate about doing that or wanting to do that? Because you already said you were critiquing other broadcast members, which is completely normal to do, right? You're looking at something,
yeah,
if you're competitive in anything, you're going to think, I'm better than them. I should be doing what they do. I can do what they do. That makes perfect
yeah.
sense. So when did that all come into your mind of like a complete change of that's what I wanted? And how did you balance it with obviously being an Ivy League? And an Ivy League is obviously super prestigious, but also a crazy amount of hard work. It's not just
Yeah.
parties and frats, right? If I'm correct.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. No, I had a really hard time in university. I had a really, really hard time. I barely, like, I did not have the best grades. Like, I
Mhm.
almost feel in some ways like thankful that I was, by the end of it, I learned kind of the ways to make sure that I like got through the classes,
Yeah,
because I would just go to office hours, talk to my professors, ask everything I don't know, no matter how stupid it makes me feel, because I just felt
that's
like
a good skill to
I
have.
yeah, like, and I would just make sure I do all the work. again, like this is kind of a trend I think throughout even high school or grade school. Is just like I just do all the if you just do all the work, even if sometimes I don't retain the information because I don't like the live tests. I maybe don't remember like one concept, which messes me up for like 2/3 of the exam. If the professor saw that I did the homework and like really trying hard, if I just get a D on the exam, but I did all the homework,
Yeah.
they're not gonna fail you. They're not gonna fail you. I wasn't getting
You
A's. I
tried.
got
You did something.
yeah, I got very I'll say I got very few A's in college, okay? Because
Okay.
I was actually living it up. I was living it up a lot in New York. I was like
Yeah.
it was the first time I lived in a big city and I just was like dude, I was going to like the club like all the time. Like,
Oh,
I was
okay.
like, dude, I was getting really into techno and really into house music, and I was like, and I had a fake ID. I was like, there were like audiophile clubs that were just like popping up in like Brooklyn at that time. The scene was like really taking off. Like Resident Advisor, the website started popping off. Like, and I was getting really entrenched in this community of like people going out and like just dancing until the sun comes up and stuff like that. So I was
Bro, you had a balance of
really
everything. Bit of
yeah.
CS, bit of gaming, bit of partying
Yeah.
like a madman, and then trying to be good at an Ivy League at the same time, trying to study hard.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even my girlfriend right now, like eventually wife to be Rebecca, like the way we met was kind of in like circles like that where we was like, people that we weren't okay, I'll be real. We weren't like in this was like less depraved than people might think it was. Like
Hmm.
legitimately, people think it's like we're doing like mad like actually funnily, people will probably think this is like mad like substance usage and stuff like that. It wasn't like that as much
Okay.
as it was just like a lot of just drinking and like I'll say there was occasionally weed. There was some
Yeah,
weed
yeah.
involved. But not as much substance stuff as people might associate today with like the
That
big like
music.
doof doof
Yeah,
doof
yeah,
raves.
yeah.
It's not like that. Like a lot of these were actually like places to chill. Like they
Cool.
were cool spaces for people to like you could always go back onto the dance floor and hang out and stuff like that. But like I think some of the best club memories I have were just like talking on the rooftop of the clubs and
Hmm.
stuff and just hanging out talking for like 2 hours about aspects of life, just
Yeah.
different thoughts people are having, society and stuff like that.
So when obviously I first remember seeing you was Epicenter, if we're looking at
Hmm.
broadcast work coming into it. But you did do some of the commentary stuff beforehand, right? To get your foot in. It was back in 2017 when I'm looking at your Liquipedia, for example. Where were you in terms of still an Ivy League and balancing that? Like what was the way that you tried to get in? How did we try to get Mauisnake as a actual broadcast talent? And how did you manage it all?
So, so I graduated in 2016. So
Okay,
I
so you
was,
waited until you graduated.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I waited
Nice.
till I graduated. Um, at the tail end of when I was in university is when I kind of like mentally made the pivot, and that's kind of when I registered again for ESEA
Hmm.
because I thought about it to myself. I could just go the route of hard dedicate yourself to broadcast work, but I actually took from people a lot of the analysts in the space that got gigs, and also I think one guy that was actually extremely inspirational was Launders. I feel like Launders was a guy that I kind of saw the blueprint of what he did. He competed to the ESEA main level, and he was making YouTube content at the same time. Then he got his foot in the door as an analyst, switched up to being a commentator. But either way, I mean, he became broadcast work because of like these two factors that were working together. It was
Yeah.
content and playing, and that's kind of why I just was like thinking to myself, okay, that's the blueprint, and that's what anybody who wants to get into it should probably. That's a model to follow. If
Yeah.
you could grind out broadcast work, but we see actually that there's tons of, and I at the time I had seen that there were tons of broadcast talent that were just spinning their wheels in tier 2 online events. They get the occasional call up to like an EPL, online B broadcast, like B stream, but that's kind of all they would ever get.
Yeah.
And so obviously my aspirations were a lot higher than that than just doing B streams. And so what I did was that I was making YouTube content. I think my first video I published was at the end of 2016. And then I was also at the same time trying to compete in ESEA because I knew that by competing at the same time, I could establish a brand for myself that the audience could trust. I mean, I won't even lie. Also, I did like playing. I did like competing too. So, you know, I love the game on the playing side.
Hmm.
I loved the broadcast side, and I tried doing kind of like all three essentially. I tried making YouTube content to keep my name out, to get my name out there.
Yep.
I competed to the level that I felt comfortable competing at, and then I was also trying to do as many little tier 2 broadcast gigs that I could at the time. And yeah, I mean, I think they all work together in order to just kind of establish my brand so that people could find me. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think if you just kind of pigeon yourself to one, you'll never, well,
Very true.
player is the, if you're a player and you get to the highest level, yeah, that works. But
Yes.
I think we've got actually some pretty reasonably good commentators that never really got a breakthrough because they never really had that other aspect that made them a draw to TOs. I think you look at, you know, an up and coming aspect would be someone like Fi, where he got more ESL gigs after his YouTube blew up.
Yeah,
And
because of his YouTube, definitely.
yeah. And so that's kind of the model that I followed. And that's how I caught the attention in 2018 no, 2017 of Thorin. That's when he invited me onto Counterpoints for the first time as a guest. And then in 2018, he came into some more money and he hired me as his research assistant
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
so
Note
that again,
taking
like,
Maui.
essentially, yeah. I mean, at that point, I was doing legitimately four things. I was Thorin's research assistant. I
Yep.
was competing at the ECL, what is called ECL today, but at the time it was called MDL. Back in the day, it was called Premier. You know, that kind of like tier 2 level in North America. And it was YouTube content, commentating, Thorin work. You know, it was four things at once, and so
Okay,
it
so
was, yeah.
that you were doing a lot at this point, but how were you when you were trying to balance all this? Like in your mind going through, I just finished an Ivy League. I'm not taking a full-time job to actually make money. Like, was this like the gap year style thing? Was this a break year, like where you were just trying to see if it would work out? Did you give yourself a timeline of it needs
Yeah.
to do something here? Otherwise, I'm going to have to actually use my degrees and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, thankful. Okay, so two things that a few things that I'm really thankful for. One is that my parents were fairly supportive.
Hmm.
I told them frankly what the timeline of this would look like.
Yep.
That it probably is going to take 2 to 3 years to really get up to speed and to start getting hired for tier 1 events. And I even told them, you know, the make or break year is 2019. If I don't get, I even said if I don't get hired by the end of 2019, I'll start applying for normal jobs again.
Okay.
And that's why Epicenter was just a total blessing because
Yeah.
in the months leading up to Epicenter, I had already started applying for consulting positions. Like what other thing? I mean, basically, I was looking to kind of get into finance because I was like, okay, shit, I need to catch up because I have not been really making any money. I technically was doing some like online coaching at the time,
Mhm.
and the rates on that were actually halfway decent. So it's like I had some spending cash to go out with a little bit, but I couldn't live off that. No, not
Yeah.
even close. The other thing that was actually kind of a blessing is that in 2018, when I actually played in the Mountain Dew League, the team that I played for had a team house.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, yeah. So I actually moved from Hawaii to Oklahoma in 2018 to play Mountain Dew League, what is now ESL Challenger League. And all of us, well, a few of us were in the team house. I had better ping. That's kind of also along the time when, like, I mean, I got into like a couple like highlight videos and stuff like that. I mean, opping in NA at that time was also kind of weak, so I had a couple like good little good performances here and there, like popping off versus Ghost Gaming, taking a map off of Complexity, stuff like that. Like,
Mhm.
and I think people at that time, like I think even people like Darth Mike who were like commentating at that time kind of knew that like first season MDL Maui was kind of an up and comer. Like people noticed that I was pretty good, but it was still at that time never my goal to be a pro player. I actually was just like still trying to do all these other things with the target in mind to get into broadcast work.
And you'd even
So
had a break
yeah,
though. That's what's crazy, right? To be able to reach them levels, and you're talking about these teams you're doing some damage against, and you'd been studying all this time, you'd been away from CS, and you came back and you kind of got back on it pretty successfully.
I mean the thing is that the truth is like I think when I got picked up for my first MDL team, I had 3,000 hours in the game, and then but the thing is that I knew from day one, practically, of playing CS:GO, that I wanted to like get back into it. So
Hmm.
it's a lot easier when you have that focus in mind to be a lot more dedicated. And I'll be honest, there were also a lot of really great learning resources early on. Like around the mid 2010s is kind of when like Steel and Days were making really good videos.
Yeah.
Fallen made a lot of great videos. Adren was making videos as well. I was just like soaking up all these little resources that I could, because thankfully a lot of pretty esteemed IGLs at the time were making content which kind of laid the groundwork for how do you call, how do you mid round, how do you develop a system, how should you try to position yourself, like what are the fundamentals of Counter Strike, that and then that kind of, I always felt like in the back of my head, because I played competitive CS also when I was like a teenager, a
Yeah.
lot of those lessons I learned about like I knew what like taking first contact was when I was like 13 years old.
Yeah.
So some of those like lessons about like also like trade fragging, like knowing when it's a good time to trade frag versus also when you should just play your 1v1, like when you're playing the bomb in a 2v1 situation, don't just go for a trade frag when he doesn't know where you are. Like shit, little like lessons I had learned the hard way as a young teenager. So I think it was a lot easier for me to just be a good team player and to know what to focus on very, very quickly. So I
Yeah.
could yeah, because some people don't know, like if you don't have the groundwork in your head of like what should you improve next, then it's a lot harder. And the amount of the raw hours I have in both Counter-Strike Source and Go were very high, but it's just that in Go I had low hours because I learned so many lessons from Source.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it helped boost you up a little bit there. And
Yeah.
then also, if I'm right, yeah, at this point, you'd also met a lot of players who then went on to become pro players, or like you started to actually put your name in there. You played with some of these guys, right? Can you give us some background on that?
Like the players I was with, or what? What
Players you
specifically?
played with who are like pros
Yeah.
now, right? There's a few that
Oh,
we've
okay.
spoken
Yeah, yeah.
about in the time.
Well, I mean, the truth is, and the sad part is that a lot of the guys I played with are just super successful in Valorant now. Um,
Okay.
yeah, like so, what Brock on NRG won? Didn't they won like the VCT World Championship? I mean, I played with him. Jonah P, one of the star players for G2, he was on my team as well.
This is
And
crazy.
then yeah, I mean like so, dude. I mean, what Guimond was like one of the head guys on TSM's team for a while.
Hmm.
I played, the initial TSM roster itself, like Drone, Cutler, those guys. I played with them also for a while. They were like the first like elite team in Valorant, essentially.
Yeah.
Like they were like the world champions during the Ignition series. People will forget about that, obviously, but like because they were basically just using CS fundamentals, applying them to a Valorant game that didn't have too many abilities yet, and just playing. They were just trying to play CS in Valorant, which is
Yeah.
why people like Brax were really good and stuff. I mean, in terms of playing on this, and also I guess the only real players that I interacted with or that are still at a high level, I would say, are Swisher.
Yep.
Swisher was on one of my teams, and he's on M80, of course, and I coached Grim. I coached Grim for like a season, basically,
Coaching
and
Grim.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy good.
yeah. So at least I got those in my back pocket,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's really anybody else that has stuck
But
around.
but that's still positive, right? That you were coming up in those times. These people, you were playing with people that went on to have success in something that is very hard to have success in.
Yeah, I mean, I think though that it is, yeah, it's cool to see some of the guys that I played with become world class players in themselves, with regardless of the games that they ended up playing.
Yeah.
But I think that the um I guess like I mean the cool, I think one of the cooler aspects from at least my perspective is that it was playing against a lot of these guys, playing against a
Okay.
lot of the like North America's best, like scrimming against MIBR, scrimming against Immortals, scrimming like playing matches against like Complexity when they were like the same Complexity roster that got top 8 at Face It London,
Yeah.
getting to take a map off of them in a match. I think those kind of moments probably, well, I guess I could be grateful for it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's all the sides of competition which were cool, and I think I'm, even though it was never my goal to be a pro player, I don't take any of those experiences for granted because they helped me stay. They kept me like more tapped in
Yeah.
than if I had not done it.
And you're informed as well, right? Especially for later in broadcast work, knowing these people, how you can interact with them
Mhm.
and stuff at the same time. Some of the conversations we've had about Swisher, for example, or Grim, and like how you can just tap in and touch to them every now and again if you need to. But did any of this, when you look at success, some of the players you played with had, did it ever go into your mind like, oh, maybe I should have tried and pushed? Maybe I should have tried to be a pro, or do you never have that?
So so when I played with Swisher, I would say I got more of the star roles, and
Mm-hmm.
I think people on my team kind of it's hard to say. Let's just say this. I don't want to be too humble, nor do I want to be too delusional about what I was at that point. Let's say Swisher and I think Swisher and I were our 1A and 1B best players at that time.
Okay.
I see the trajectory that Swisher went on, and I'm not in any way envious of what that is. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like grinding it out with M80. I saw multiple majors through RMRs that they missed, and I
Yeah.
felt horrible. You know, I felt like, man, that could have been me sitting in that chair had I have chosen to pursue it. But instead, before this is not a this I respect Swisher immensely for going on this grind and doing it. You know, funnily enough, Swisher and I were born in the same hometown actually also, and we both live in the Sacramento area today. So
Ah,
our lives have had fairly funnily similar
it's kind of
trajectories.
intertwined.
Yeah, definitely. But I see that by the time he made his first major, I had worked on the broadcast for like 4 majors prior to that. I'm not even remotely envious of that
Yeah.
journey. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
things
It's
got done a
hard.
lot faster with me in a way.
It's
Yeah.
it's very hard for the pro players. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's get into then Epicenter being the big one. I was actually supposed to work that event. I think that's when where Foreign actually had to host, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he has a
Exactly.
desk host because I couldn't come. So then Foreign's ends up desk hosting. You get pulled into the broadcast as well. It's your first big event by far. Now, at this time, right, obviously, looking at the teams that were there, this was some of the best in the world teams, elite. That you got EG, Navi, VP, Vitality, Heroic, Mouse, Fours, eHome as well, come through the Chinese qualifier for people who don't remember
Yep.
that. But you worked alongside, it was Vendetta, Potter, you, Sadakist, Hawker, DDK, Bardolph, and Foreign. What was
Yep.
that experience like for you? Your first on a big broadcast? Can you remember the emotions you felt?
Definitely nervousness.
Excuse
Yeah.
me.
Bless you. Bless you. Well, definitely at the very beginning, nervousness, but excitement to prove myself. I
Yeah.
think that was the overarching feeling is that I'm so ready for this, but I didn't truly think I don't think at any point I thought I'm gonna fuck this up, but I definitely felt like this might not be my A plus because of some of the nerves. But I think that to his credit as a host, Thorin knew exactly how to set up analysts. I think
Yeah.
that was like one of the best aspects of that. One also, and an important detail about this is that yeah, I mean this was kind of like a I knew Thorin at the time. We had worked together a bit. And because he got that hosting gig, he didn't want to do the hosting gig apparently because he
Oh.
wants to just be an analyst.
Yeah.
So he said one of the terms of getting the hosting gig there was that he would get to bring in an analyst that he wants to bring in, and that was me. So that was kind of also how that all happened. I mean, one of the things that he did on the desk for that is that he would just ask me before segments go live, what do I want to talk about in these games, and then he'll just basically he'll almost make up the question for the answer, as opposed to asking a question that he maybe has more of a genuine curiosity for. He would just like give me layups essentially. He would just give me total alley oop questions. I would get to say what I wanted to say, like, oh, I have something to say about their T side here. Oh, I have something to say about this player. Oh, I have
Yep.
something to say about the mentality of this team. And then he would just basically tailor the question there. Now, I'll give like hosts a little bit of like what I probably want to say, but it's nowhere near as I guess I wouldn't say it's not scripted, but
Yeah.
just like it was a little bit more of a setup and a delivery. Whereas now I have such a comprehensive understanding of like all of the teams in the top 20. If you ask me any aspect of like any of them, like all literally like 100 players, you could ask me a question about any of them. I can give you an actual opinion based off of things I've seen, kind of the stats that I remember, and then also like any overarching storyline regarding that team. But at that time, I had a bit more of a narrow viewpoint, and I also just heavy prepped for the teams that were at that event.
Of
And
course.
so yeah, he just kind of set things up like that. But for the other people you mentioned on it, I mean, I think that actually one guy that helped me a surprising amount with Sadakist. I didn't really expect him to be so warming. But that's kind of, I think I also knew through going out a lot how to like get on people's good side right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't survive the New York club scene without knowing how to make friends, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
I think I very early on, Sadakis and I connected pretty well, and he watched what I was doing on the broadcast, and he would give me he gave me a good amount of pointers pretty
Nice.
early on. um One tangible one is that my body language was a little too snug, too
Mm-hmm.
tucked in, and he said something that I can do, like no one will notice that I'm doing this, is just when you are talking, when you start talking, have your hands open. It's a completely unnatural pose for people to just talk with their hands open, but then you'll start moving your hands around, and then that'll help develop habits of just making sure that your hands are going, like you're gesticulating in a way that emphasizes the points that you're making.
Yeah.
So that he also gave little bits
Body
on like
language is so important.
for a desk, especially when you're on camera like that. Yeah, no, without a doubt. So I thank him for that. I'd say that some of the other guys gave me some lessons throughout time. I lived with James Bardoff after that. Years
Yeah.
later, I lived with him, and him and I would always just we theory craft how to be better on broadcast all the time. We talk shop almost every day in some way. Like little,
Awesome.
we would just have broadcasts on in our living room too, and then we would just for other esports at times too, and then we'd kind of like pick on little things that they're doing on those broadcasts, and then think about, okay, what are they doing on that one? What are they doing on this one? Should we bring that into our space at all? Is that good? Is that bad?
Yeah.
And like getting to basically live in like a workshop essentially with him was great, because have your opinions you will about any broadcast talent that's a regular in the tier 1 space, but everybody knows what they're doing.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. Definitely. So Epicenter was obviously huge for you, but then the next big event you work after that was the Flashpoint seasons. But during this time, if I look at 2020, obviously it's kind of a weird year anyway, but you're doing a lot of commentating, then you're doing some of the dream hacks as well. Like, would you say 2020 was when you felt like you made it as a broadcast talent, or was it still like I don't know where my next gig's coming from, I'm not sure what's happening? Like, when did you feel secure?
um I would say actually pretty quickly. I actually talked to DreamHack almost immediately after Epicenter, and probably within 2 weeks of Epicenter finishing. And they said that they liked my work, and that I was actually I got hired for what was supposed to be DreamHack Open Montreal. They wanted me on the desk for
Mm-hmm.
that, and once I got that nod of approval too, and I just I just felt like I just felt like I wasn't gonna mess up at that point. I,
Yeah.
I I know a lot of people go through the insecurity or imposter syndrome sort of stuff, and you know, I I mean, there was always a little bit of uncertainty. I won't be, I'm not gonna say like I knew like I had secured it all right away, or that I was A plus or anything like that, because I knew I had to get better and everything.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't getting hired by every TO. I mean, Blast was running at the time, ESL was running at the time. I wasn't really hearing too much from them, but once Flashpoint and DreamHack started coming my way, it's like, I mean, in that year, I saw more work than I thought I even would, even after how well I felt after Epicenter. So that, yeah, I felt pretty secure at that point. I mean, it's a big difference between that and getting to a major, but I definitely felt like by the end of 2020, I mean, I worked a lot of days that year, so
Yeah.
I felt pretty good. I felt pretty good about how things were going.
And yeah, this is it as a talent. You obviously have these moments where you're not sure what's coming next. You may be a bit worried about the year and things, but your trajectory at least shows that like you were getting a good amount of still high tier events mixed in with some of the smaller ones to kind of propel you. Obviously, then we go through the whole COVID situation as well, but you were still doing all the Flashpoint stuff the whole way through. Then
Yeah,
I found you because obviously I'd seen your work on some of these other shows. I'd seen you on Flashpoint, watching the Dream Hacks and stuff, and I grabbed you in for the Academy League, which I was quite happy
yeah,
you agreed to because we at the time, right, I built this Academy League with WePlay. It was my idea, my little child of what we wanted to make happen for the future. We worked with all the organizations, but I needed someone that was going to care. And what I saw about you is that you were not just watching the games and then just spitballing what was happening. You were doing your research. You were always talking about watching demos, right? That's the one thing I always remember of early Mauisnake is I watched this demo. I saw this demo. That was like your key line at the time. So what was it that made you want to agree to WePlay at that time? Because some people just didn't want to do an event like that, right? They didn't want to come do this lower tier event, even though it
I
paid the
feel like
same as the top tier events. To be clear.
yeah, it was a great event. I mean, at that point, you know, I definitely would never have considered myself tier 1 talent back in 2021.
Okay.
And so an event like that to me just felt perfect. It's a platform. Also, it was during the player break, and
Yeah.
so there was another Counter-Strike at the time. And for me, at that point in my career, when I'm just trying to essentially make ends meet and make sure that I just continue to stay in the conversation as an analyst. It felt like a great time to prove myself, and honestly, I mean, I was blown away by the level of production value, how smooth and polished all the aspects were of it. I don't think there's any surprise now that We Play have gone on to just secure bigger contracts in other sorts of parts of the world at this point.
Crazy.
Yeah, because they were damn near flawless. I don't know even know it's it's hard to even compare because it felt so low maintenance, as in what we had to come in and tell them. They would just follow along in a way that I think only mirrors practically like the most high-end broadcasts that
Yeah.
you could possibly imagine today. I will say though, I think some of the TOs today have actually gotten that message. I think actually the TOs I work with now, Blast and PGL, they actually do a great job. If somehow the conversation does pivot,
Hmm.
there are moments where they're able to draw assets and or grab assets on the fly, bring them in. But I never felt that until then. You know, I
Yeah.
never for the DreamHack Opens and everything like that I'd worked, and even including Flashpoint, maybe you get some little bits and pieces from other things, but We Play was just so on the fly, ready to go. If I'm talking about Prosis on Big Academy, he's coming up on screen immediately, and maybe 3 of his highlights are right there after.
Yeah.
It was so spiffy.
And it was crazy because I remember trying to get everyone to agree to come to Kiev as well, right? It was COVID times. There was like,
Yeah.
we didn't have COVID as much as in Ukraine. We got a smaller sample size of it. We still had to do all the checks and everything, but we were a bit more open. So for you, you were going on some mad flights, I remember. It was like crazy journeys for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the journeys were ridiculous actually. I I mean, at the time, I was kind of between living in LA and Hawaii,
Yeah.
and I mean, either one, it didn't even really matter. It was going to be over 20 hours of journey of traveling. I mean, Kiev is definitely more Eastern European
Yep.
than some of the stuff we have in the circuit. Like Copenhagen almost feels like a breeze in comparison in the times. It's just, I mean, it's just that extra 6 hours or whatever on
Yeah.
top of already having flown so far. Yeah, no, there were literally times during We Play I remember where I came off of a 25-hour travel day and then landed the day that we had to do the broadcast, and then I was just in and doing it, you know. So
Yep.
yeah, parts of my life I definitely don't envy. I don't even know why I had to do that actually, but either way,
Crazy
it
flight
was
times.
it's
It
okay.
it
It's
was
okay.
it was a lot of fun. That's obviously where we got to meet each other. I think two of my personal like proud moments from that is just getting you for the broadcast and getting Heku for the broadcast. That was like two early
Mhm.
ones of seeing potential in people, seeing how good they could be, and watching them thrive. And you were like me, where you cared a lot about these young players coming up. And look how it's benefited us now for what we do, where so
Yeah,
many of these players have actually made it to tier one. It's kind of crazy.
we got really lucky with how many of those players ended up popping off. I mean, the Mouse guys are the best example, of course,
Yeah.
winning multiple seasons with Exertion, Torzi, Shuhei. Shay
Shane.
never made it. Shay never made it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
but
only one.
yeah, JDC as well. And then obviously Monacy. I think Monacy is like the biggest
Yeah.
star that's still going. I mean, he's on another level still, and he was on another level. Day one of watching him at the We Play League was just, oh yeah, this is something completely different, and it probably shouldn't even be in this league.
Yeah, yeah. He's already passed us. He's already gone there. So then
Yeah.
I think the next big one for you was Katowice. Was it
Mhm.
like I remember doing my first Kato and being so hyped about getting that opportunity because of the prestige, because of the legacy with it. Did you have that feeling? Like, was it something important for you?
I'm not sure if I felt that as much because I will say I think the doing some of the because I think I did some of the blast stuff in their studio
Yep, you were
and
with us on Blast at that point. You did like full groups, full showdown stuff.
Yeah, and so I honestly feel like the Kata was great for a lot of reasons, but I will be honest, I think the literal stage at those blast events kind of felt more intimidating. Just like, you're standing there on this like triangle. It's like you and two other people, just like, and the camera's just full focus on you. It just felt like this like really, really professional production. It's not like Katowice didn't, but you were kind of at these like sitting desks that were very much just like covered in advertisements,
Hmm.
and it just kind of, and I think that the polish at blast events was extremely apparent early on. And Katowice, in a way, yes, I definitely, I knew the gravitas of the event, and it was exciting to also work with ESL for the first time officially. But it didn't really have that kind of like punch me in the face factor that some of the other events kind of hit me.
Okay. And
I just felt a little more flooded in already, is what I
yeah,
would say.
yeah. But then your first major comes around. Your first major was a weird one because I got moved to Desk Host and you had to be the interviewer.
Yeah, yeah,
I remember this so well.
yeah.
You had some fun with it, but obviously they'd thrown you into the interview role. We'd already spoke earlier within our little interview here that like you can do this kind of stuff. But what was that like to go from the analyst role into the interviewer role at your first major? Like you don't want to say no to your first major.
Well,
You do
well, it's the
eventually
RMRs.
be yes, the RMRs, but you do eventually get to be an analyst, right? But I mean,
Yeah,
it was a strange scenario you went through in order to get there.
I just took every opportunity like I do every other. I mean, I that one too. I had questions written for all the teams that I knew I had to interview. I was on call all the time, waiting for the games to finish. It was probably in a way one of the most, uh, I would say, I would say like difficult events because
Yeah.
it wasn't this. It was more the scheduling was very weird because for the analyst role, you just kind of know you're on before the game, you're on after the maps. But for the interview role, there were times when I'm just waiting for a team to text back essentially that they can come over. And so
Welcome to
I
my
remember
world.
the I was just like I was in my hotel room just kind of waiting for those texts, just kind of like lying down, just kind of like, when's the next one gonna come? Okay, I got a beep. Okay, great. Okay, now I'm here again.
Yep.
And then because the days were really, this is your world because the days are extremely long. It was like start to finish every single day. Whereas also for people that don't know, for the usually for analysts and commentators, there's shifts. You'll work 2 series a day maximum. The interviewer role was kind of like I'm there for start to finish. Like there's no. I think 1 or 2 days they might have said, okay, that's enough for the day. You did enough. You can
Yeah,
you
yeah.
you can just like check out, which was nice. But some of the
Those days
days
are
I
few
was
and far between.
exactly, exactly. It was just 12 hours of being on call. Like I think the closest thing I could relate it to for a regular person's job is there's like people that work in hospitals or people
Yeah.
that work on like tech things at home where you just kind of need you don't know when the next thing's going to come, but you just need to have your phone on like full volume ready as soon as it beeps. You got to like get on to whatever module project like or room that you need to be in to execute whatever it is as flawlessly as you can
Yeah.
under like complete like abnormal conditions. So
Dude,
it was a learning experience, but one that I'm thankful for because
I'm
it
so
just
glad you went through
showed me a different
this.
side.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad you went through this because I've seen so and by the way, you didn't fail at this, but I've seen so many interviewers fail where I've worked with interviewers who would basically fall asleep because obviously it's not easy, right? But it's like they don't have that ability to switch on because you basically, like you said, you get a text, you get a Discord message, and you must then be ready to go within 2 minutes. There's no like get dressed and get ready time. It's downstairs, film, get ready, and you need to be awake, alert, like on point, bring the energy. And then all of it crashes again. And then you wait maybe an hour, 2 hours, and
Yep.
then you have to wait for that next text or whatever. Sometimes they can hit you with like 4 or 5 back to back, but it is rough. It is tough out there. But for your hard work, PGL then did give you the actual Antwerp major, and that was your first major, 2022. We're in the arenas. It was a great arena as well, right? Complete one of the biggest arenas we had in history. So,
Yep.
was that something? Did that motivate you in that special? Did it give you that special feeling? Was that the one?
It did. I mean, that was the one where that was the breakthrough for
Yeah,
me. I had felt like I had broken through by doing the handful of events, and I kind of knew that I was, I guess like tier 1.25, but you never really think. I don't think you should ever consider yourself tier 1 until you're doing it. I don't. It's just it's unjustified. But finally doing Antwerp was where okay the culmination of my hard work is finally here,
Yeah.
and I mean I'll be real even like actually for the first day, before the first day of playoffs, like in my room, just like getting hyped up for it, I was tearing up. Like
Oh
I was like, wow,
wow.
this like I was like, wow, this is like this is finally where all the hard work leads.
Yeah.
And now I'm exactly where I wanted to be, where I wanted to be 7 years ago, watching broadcasts with my friend in college, just in university, saying I could do that. Like I could do that. And then I proved to myself that I could do it.
Mm,
So 100% total gratification, all of it was met, and it brought me to tears, and I still felt like I did a great job. I still felt awesome after doing it.
yeah.
I mean that event was just it was mind blowing
Yeah.
because it was just at the other events occasion I don't know I don't know it did nothing felt the same until that I would be honest because people at Antwerp were crowding our hotel and trying to get in and security had to stop them. Like
Yeah, bro.
it was like a level of ultra fandom that I honestly have only probably seen a handful of times in my life, and maybe you don't even see it every year. Like
Yeah.
legitimately,
Some
I
places you
don't
don't.
even
Some countries it's not the norm.
no, no, it's not. It's not. Like I think that the thing about Antwerp that was so crazy is that it took over the whole city. Like I couldn't go for a walk to run errands or to get a meal without somebody stopping me to get a photo or anything. And that's when also it was kind of like hitting me like, oh wow, like I these people have also seen me on their screens enough. They're willing to approach me,
Yeah.
take a selfie with me, and you know, I actually don't even think I like it that. I don't like that aspect of this as much. I don't think I like because I at other events sometimes I kind of just try to like slink away
Hmm.
from taking too many pictures and stuff like that. I'll always willingly do it. I'll always like if a fan ever has the has the courage to come up to me and say that they want a photo, I don't unless I literally am running to what I need to do next.
Yeah, you say
I'm never
yes.
gonna. I'll always say yes, but it's a bit overwhelming for me. But at Antwerp, it was like really interesting. It was a very um yeah it was like it was kind of seeing it was like the pinnacle of achievement at
Yeah.
Antwerp in some ways. There's been a lot of highs in my career since then, but that one remained the highest for a few years after that for sure.
Well, let's look at that then, because now you are basically working all the big broadcasts. You work for the majority of the TOs, right? We don't need to get into
Yeah.
details of the obvious ones you don't work with, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, you've got a successful set of opportunities in front of you with the biggest events and going at it. So, what has been the highest point of your career? What is the pinnacle so far for Maui? Who's done Shanghai? Who's done Paris? Who's done Rio? Who's done Antwerp? You're doing all the big ones now throughout. You've done Austin as well, Budapest.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 6 majors under my belt. I will say there's a few answers to this question. The number one is I will say I think the biggest satisfaction I ever had after an event was Austin.
Okay.
Austin was the event where I felt like I put so much into it. The way they used the analyst desk was unique. They made us go to the front of the stage before every single segment.
It's a cool experience,
For
huh?
for the playoffs. So we do our final lines in front of that. I remember making people laugh and cheer in a way that I hadn't really as much before. I had done some light stage work before or crowd work in the past. There have been events where I've been mic'd up to the audience. I've tried to like get people in on it. IEM Dallas, for example, was an event that I would always cherish because like I would say certain things, people would start chanting them. If you just say USA in an
Yeah,
American crowd, they're gonna start
kind of
chanting it with
works.
you. Which yeah, it's a fail safe way to go through it. But to like get them to react to me in different ways at Austin was great, or at least hearing that.
Hmm.
So as a whole event, I think that was my number one, and it's definitely remained that way. But I think that the best this might be a little bit weird, and I think some analysts might shy away from these kind of moments. But I think the most impactful moment I ever had in my career was calling out Cadian after the Paris semifinals that they choked to Gamer Legion
Yeah.
because I just said Like, I'm sick of it. I gave a long rant about. I think to this day it's probably my best rant. I think it's my best desk moment. I think I've actually gotten better. I think I've gotten more polished. I think I've been more succinct. My word choice has actually even improved. But something just possessed me in that moment where I just
I love how you say
said,
possessed.
yeah, and it was probably one of the most visceral moments of my career, because I thought we're destined. We are destined right now for a heroic Vitality grand final, and that is the matchup that will actually test Vitality
We all wanted
and
it.
ZywOo to actually taking the crown by taking on the team that has it in them to beat
Yeah.
Vitality at that time, but with wavering form in sort of arena performances. And for him to botch that moment for them was just so inexcusable for me. And
Yeah.
so that's when I went on the rant that Cadian will never enter the pantheon of great leaders. Door is closed. He's never going to be there with Zeus. He's never going to be there with Fallen. He's never going to be there with Kerrigan. And I remember just after that moment, I was like, it was kind of like my eyes were just bloodshot. Like, I was in a rage, basically. And I remember then checking Reddit, and there's like 5 threads about me on the front page of like, how could he dare say that and everything. And I think that's like the moment where I probably just sent the most shockwaves through the space. And I that's why I think even though a lot of the people in the comments were extremely mad at me, that's fine. Like, I was mad too. And if they, I don't know, I don't even know, in a way, looking back, I think I was right. Looking back, I was right completely for doing that.
You were.
And I don't regret any second of that. And that's why I think in like a single moment, it's my proudest on the desk moment. And that's why I want some more upsets at major playoff. Like,
Just so you can go
you
ham.
just can't get that hype. Like, hey, like, okay, don't get like Budapest and like, okay, one thing that kind of, even though I felt such satisfaction from Austin, there weren't really any crazy upsets. I mean, the biggest upset would have been Pain over Furia.
Yeah.
But the other ones were just kind of a little bit more, yeah, we sort of felt that was possible and that could have happened. And so it just didn't really have that staying factor, or like, because if in Counter-Strike, I'd say one of the things about doing desk work is that if all the favorites always win, and they just keep winning, and they always go to the number 1 team versus the number 2 team in the playoffs, in the grand finals, and the number 1 team always wins, you kind of run out of things to say. You just
100%.
like what you just like.
I run out of questions to ask. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
It's like forever too easy.
Upsets in a way get us more spiced up. They make us work for it a little bit more, and they make us come up with new material. So I think if the time I work another major where there's a lot of upsets, like Paris was crazy.
Dude.
Like, Paris was so crazy for upsets until the grand final, really.
Yeah.
And
anything could have happened at that major until that point. Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's look at that, right? Because people either love you or hate you. You've got that way with it, right? Your way of being an analyst. Like, how does it work with how you build your material, how you put yourself as an analyst in the space? Like, what do you just see yourself in this vision of like, you want to make these points, or does it come from, like you mentioned with the Cadian one, more of a point of passion? Like, do you go out there and think, okay, no one else is saying that this guy's terrible, but we all know he's terrible, so I got to say, like, this isn't acceptable, this isn't fine?
I think I just say what a lot of people are thinking, but they're scared to say.
That's how I look at it. Yeah. And then the fans get mad at you because they're like ultra fans on it. But then there's definitely, now compared to old days, how I look at it is there's a huge amount more people that are starting to be like, yeah, Mau's right again. Yep, Mau's right.
I think people go through their stages of interacting with me. The first thing is that they'll catch one take and they think, how dare he say something like that? But then the fans that see me more, and the people that are more ingrained with Counter-Strike at this point, are just kind of like, he is right, like, and I think that the opinion on me has shifted over time because people have kind of gotten used to it. I think I will be real. I think that there were times where I tried to be too much at the forefront of like, oh, this one result happened, now it's changing my perspective. I think I got a little too focused on just short-term results. So now that's in a way, I think that's more just to me like analytical failure as opposed to actually having the wrong way of presenting stuff. Because I don't. There's only maybe been like once in my career where I said something where I look back and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't mean that, and that shouldn't have been a headline because I actually kind of misspoke or misresearched that point. But generally speaking, yeah, like there was like it's not that important, but I just kind of like I like overlooked something. I overlooked something, so I made a take where I thought, oh shoot, I kind of forgot about this other thing that happened or this team, and that's why I'm just so dedicated to staying on the ball now, making sure that everything I say comes from a point of authority, that I'm not second guessing my memory about results or anything like that.
I want to say this though, right? One thing that impresses me as someone who works alongside you is Maui does all this prep, and viewers won't know this. He does all this research, but he don't sit there with a notebook in front of him. He doesn't sit there with a tablet in front of him. There's no laptop. Like, he's very good at taking in his information, having his points, and just remembering everything. And that's a skill that a lot of people can't do. Like, it's super impressive because you could easily misspeak by just not remembering the right number or not remembering the right thing.
The truth is the only time I wish I had that tablet in front of me is for vetoes. Like, that's the only time.
You're like, wait a second, what map?
Where we go through a whole 20-minute segment and then suddenly we get to vetoes and I think, oh shoot, like I wrote it down, but now I probably should get that single note card out for just the vetoes. But when it comes to the rest of it, I mean, I just put work into it, and I also construct ideas from my own eye test of things that I literally see. I think if I'm not trying to throw too much shade or anything like that, but I think some people who a lot of their takes are just kind of based off of what the numbers say, then the numbers will guide them through the segment. For me, I do look at the numbers, but I also they influence how I'll see a player, because not everybody can watch every single game with every single player, and sometimes you have blind spots. But for the players, and as dialed in as I am today, I don't really feel like I have that many blind spots. There maybe, it's rare, but that's why I'll do like my precursory research, and then I'll like then zoom back in. I take notes. I mean, I have notes on my laptop. I always write out a couple things that I know I want to hit as points. I always kind of have like a few bullet points, but the thing is that if it's important enough in the moment, I'll be sure to use it. That's my take on it. I very rarely at this point feel like I go through a segment where I'm like, dang it, I didn't say the one thing I wanted to say. If it was important enough, I would have remembered it and I would have said it.
Yep. So how do you then deal with this? Because there's the community backlash that you can sometimes get, but you also have some fallouts with players. You also have some back and forth with players. You've been right by a lot of these players, but at the time, the players might attack you. They might say some things to you. Like, is there ever any worries from your side of like what the players can come at you with, or how they deal with your criticism? Do they talk to you? Do you DM them? Do you have any of these messages? Like, because you're in a unique situation where I feel like players will talk to you about it and they will come to you, and sometimes they'll probably even agree that like you're right, but at the time they're probably not saying that.
There's a few players on top teams that I'm not going to say names or anything like that, but like there's like I'd say representatives from teams that have talked to me from many of the top teams in the world over various things that I've brought up in the past. And for the bigger blowups, I'd say, I mean, for Nafany, I was 100% right. I mean, I don't even, but
can we say Kai as well? Kai, you were 100% right.
That one was not. That one got out of hand. Okay, that kid had no business being on that team at any point in time. And,
they set him up to fail. They set him up to fail.
They set him up. The original point of that wasn't against Kai. It was that this is just abjectly horrible decision-making from Furia. But it always gets a little twisted. That's the problem with being in my position. And that's always, you talk about the frustrations in dealing with it. I think the only frustrating aspect of it is that when people skew and twist and misinterpret my words, and then sometimes I will do a little bit of damage control occasionally. Like I'll make corrections on Reddit, for example. Like there was a thread yesterday that popped up about like Xtaz, and Xtaz had a quote that was he said like some people think I'm just a cheerleader, and then the top comments like, who on earth thinks that? And someone says Mauisnake, and then it's like, I don't think Xtaz is a cheerleader. Like,
I don't think you ever said he's a cheerleader. I've never heard you say that. Yeah.
Never have, never will. I don't think he's a cheerleader. I just didn't think he was the number one coach of last year.
Hmm.
That's the only difference. In my opinion, I had a different coach in mind based off of other points that I took in, and then people will just use hyperbole. They'll like basically try to diminish what I am saying
Yep.
by basically like creating a caricature of what I say, and then I'm just like and yeah, some of the takes that I say are like they're scalding. They dig into players that people like, and I'm willing to call out when there's bad play. And I'm also ready to hype up players who maybe other people aren't ready to hype up yet. I just like I feel like when I see enough of a sample of what's going on, or gather enough evidence, then I'm willing to make a take. And
Yeah.
some people are always they're like, but the sample size is only 15 maps. And I'm like, 15 maps is like 4 tournaments. Like, why do I need more than that? That's enough for me to really make an astute statement about them. And obviously, like I said before, sometimes I would say things after like 2 series,
Yeah.
and 2 series sometimes isn't always the fairest. But I usually now try to give people enough where I'm not waiting forever, because then you end up saying nothing of value, because all you're doing then is just reading the last 6 months results. But I'm also trying not to be too short term and saying like, oh, that's one map. Could they lose the series now, even though they're heavy? Like, no, Vitality can lose a map to anybody, and I still expect them to win the next 2 maps. Like, that's
Yeah.
not like I'm not going to be that short sighted on these kinds of takes. But yeah, I guess to get back to the initial question about the fallout and those kinds of aspects, I don't think that every bridge is always mended. I don't think
Yeah.
that there's not like there are still players that have me blocked, and I don't completely blame them, but it says something to me more about them than it does. But I also think sometimes I feel like a release when they block me, because then I don't even remotely think about in the back of my head, oh, is this player going to see
They're
that?
gonna
Are they
see
going to
it.
think that? Like, I have no, like, for example, like a modern one is that I mean, I know why he blocked me, but like, so Device blocked me in like 2024 because I made a tier list that where I said for 2024 so far I am grading the oppers, and we were like 3 months into the season, or whatever. And
Hmm.
Device was bad. He had like I mean, he was just like zero impact. He probably had like a zero 0.9 rating, so I put him in like the D tier or something like that.
Yeah.
And he blocked me when that tier list came out. But now and I was kind of like, wow, that's a bit of a shame, because like, doesn't he know that that's only based off of 3 months of play?
Yeah.
But because he blocked me, now I can just say it. Like, on 100 Thieves, he's the biggest problem on that team. Like, he's the biggest weakness. So if they want to go that route, then now they have to recognize that it actually frees me up to just say absolutely anything, because it's like, well, you blocked me anyway, so I hold nothing to you anymore. So I can just be as opinionated as I want to about
Yeah.
how your form is.
You're unleashed. You're definitely
Yeah,
unleashed.
I'm unleashed. I'm unleashed on that. Yeah.
And just looking at how do you take it on, and how difficult is it sometimes where you see these horrible threads, these comments, like you said, you already go back and correct some of the people that say things on here, but broadcast talent all get a little bit, but I do feel like you get it maybe sometimes so more unfairly. So how do you cope with all of that side of this job and this broadcast work?
Um, I think that I've kind of I think I've gone the way, thankfully, that kind of Richard introduced me to it, but I kind of made it my own in a way where I use my stream a lot to read these threads, so that I kind of actually have my like echo chamber of fans who see these also, and it kind of reassures me that that's not what I said, that
Yep.
this is not like that's an unfair point for me. But I also think that um if you criticize, sometimes you just kind of have to recognize like one of two things. You either recognize, one, you made, as an analyst, maybe you made a mistake about your judgment there, and then you have to reassess how you perceive a player or a team. The other thing is that sometimes you have to recognize there are irrational fan bases for certain teams and certain players, that
Yes.
by saying anything critical about any of those, they will come at you. And so recognizing that, because I think that Donk was the best player of last year, that when 4 dudes on a forum that have the suffix woo in their name, like whatever woo, this woo, that woo, that woo, yeah, maybe they're just fans of Zywoo, so they're not gonna really like what I say. And that those people I can like easily just kind of bat away. They're
Yeah.
like gnats, like I could just flick them away. I don't think twice about it. If someone constructs and it's been a while since someone has like really constructed like a really strong argument against me being at an event. And now also something that's been working for me is that ever since I really started streaming, gaining momentum, people know me from the podcast streams, like all the other non-broadcast aspects. I have a lot of people that are willing to fight on my behalf, and I
Yep.
usually see them crop up when there's any like really like harsh negativity towards me, and then they will challenge people on my behalf, and they usually actually end up looking in my eyes like the better person. I mean, who'd have thunk it? Like the guy defending me, I think looks better, but like if I try to assess it
I know what you
rationally,
mean. I know what you mean,
yeah,
because like
yeah,
I do the podcast, right? I do my own streams and stuff as well. I've always done the parts in it, and I feel like now I see so many of these dumb comments on Reddit or HRTV forums, but then there's
yeah,
other people now fighting for you and saying like, yeah, he literally doesn't do that. Like, where the whole thing is, he only asks, "How are you feeling?" But like, that's definitely not the only question I ask ever, and it's not even up for debate. But now
yeah,
people
no,
fight it
no,
for you. You just let them do it. You let them go, and you make a very good point. No one, or do I see, maybe once in a blue moon, do I see like an actual good paragraph where someone says, I don't like this about it. I don't, they don't do that. It's just throwaway comments, something they don't like. You interviewed their favorite player who was losing, or you spoke badly about their player that lost, and then they lose their minds and they have a little hissy fit. But
yeah.
more often than not, it says more about the fan base than it says about us and our work with it all. So I want to come on to more of like now where you're at of your career as we get towards the end of this, because you do the podcast, you do the co-streams, you're doing the broadcast. Are you happy with the work-life balance you have with what you've got going on? What is the future holding for Maui? What do you want to do going to the next steps? What's the evolution of Mauisnake look like?
I would just say if I could have absolutely everything I want today, what it would look like is I would work 4 to 5 events a year,
Mhm.
and my co-stream would have 5,000 or more. It would, because then you're starting to get into territory where I'm not sacrifice anything monetarily by
Mhm.
not going to events, but like I don't know I mean the exact number is up for debate, whatever. It just depends on your
But
viewership
now
and stuff
you're
like that.
about
But
1,000 co-stream, right? Like average.
well, for EPL was an event that had really low viewership for everybody, including the main broadcast. So that one
Okay.
kind of took a dip. But I'm kind of hoping, Cologne kind of pops me off to like I don't know. I don't know what the number is going to be. I want to set a goal, but sometimes when I set goals, I get disappointed, and sometimes I don't know how much of it is in my control versus how much of it is the event. But
Yeah.
if I don't, I would say this: if I don't get to at least like 1,000 average for all of Cologne, then co-streaming is not in my future. Like that
Mm-hmm.
clearly that sheer it. Well, I don't know if I'm working the event technically or anything like that, but it basically an event of that size, I should average over 1,000,
Yeah.
and then that's something to build towards. And well, I still have a drive to do analyst work. That goes without saying. I still put in work every single day. The broadcast I'm going to be on right after we record this. I've got my notes already. I've submitted stuff to production that I want to talk about so that they're ready for me to talk about those things. And I'm looking at a demo right after we finish this. I'm looking at a demo of Zero, the new player on Tyler. So like I've got that
Nice.
queued up, ready to go. So I'm not slowing down on any of those aspects, and my work ethic has stayed extremely strong. I just would want to be, because like last year I was away from home for half the year, like literal days,
Yeah.
probably like roughly 170 or something like that, something days. And I would want that to scale down
Mm-hmm.
to maybe just like 100 100 days from home. I think that's not, because I'm looking to have a kid. I'm looking to just have a little bit more time at home in general, and I don't want to take concessions on what I earn or the influence I have in the space. And I think another way to have strong influence in the space is through co-streams. I mean, the narrative, even some of the narratives that I've brought up on co-streams, kind of they leak towards the other parts of the space, and
Yeah.
I still feel like I am
Cultural
making,
impact.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's important to me, and so I would just kind of that would be the end goal. Like
Nice.
4 or 5 events a year, 5,000 viewers, and I am in the place that I want to be today. But
Nice.
as it stands, that's not the case. I mean, I'm doing. I don't know the number of events I'm doing this year. We never know those things that far in advance usually for all TOs all the time, as you're aware. But
Yeah.
such is the life of being a freelancer. I mean, if I'm working 9 events in a year, because last year I did 12. If,
Mm-hmm.
if I did 8 or more, I'm still very happy. The amount
Yeah.
we make is still very good. It does allow, it kind of forces me to have a little bit more time at home in a way that kind of forces me to co-stream more. And I guess like the only thing I would say is maybe I would want my podcasts to be better too, or like get more
Mhm.
viewership or get bigger sponsors. You know, just I would like the revenue streams to kind of all equal out, as opposed to right now most broadcast talent, and this has kind of been the way it is for the last decade or so, are very beholden to the TO, the tournament organizer, and
Yeah, they're everything.
the bulk of the money we all make generally comes from them. You know, some people set themselves up really well with sponsorships, and that can add to it, of course, but you don't really maintain the sponsorships without the visibility from the broadcast.
Yeah.
But to have your own visibility via your own stream, or for podcasts to actually get big enough that you always are a voice in the space, then you create a self-reliant sustainability, which someone that is only doing broadcast work doesn't have.
Okay.
So I would just want to be a little bit more independent in this space where I'm still strongly contributing, still as focused as ever, but just getting to do it all on my own.
Nice. It sounds like a very good, well balanced aim to have there for it all, especially for the future, what you want with a family and things like that. So, lastly, I want to ask you then is what would you like to say to all the Maui fans, the Maui haters, everyone out there just watching, supporting? What final words would you leave to the people who are watching the story of Maui? Because if they got this far, they probably love you more than hate you, or they might just be hate watching.
Yes, yeah, it'd be kind of crazy. I feel like it would be a little bit more difficult to hate me after all of this. I don't know if
Hopefully.
I said it. I'd hope, but I guess the main aspect of it all is just that for the fans, that I just hope they keep on supporting. That even by having my stream on in the background, or on a second monitor, or on a device, even if they're not an active participant, is always good to help. Just turning, even just clicking any YouTube video I put out, whether that's on my own channel or whether that's a podcast I'm doing for LFN, is always good. You know, engagement is really the lifeblood of somebody in my position, and so any form of engagement is always beneficial, even if you're not directly subscribing or donating money. Like, it doesn't need to be that. It could just literally be on, just being on whatever it is I'm doing. A
Yeah.
view is, it can be snowballed into anything. It can be, that's all we're in. We're in an attention economy, so even if I don't really have all of your attention, a click is still valuable. For anybody that is watching this and maybe just wants to be a broadcast talent, I'd say the blueprint's out there. You can probably do it as well if you listen to what I said and see what the examples are before you. And I actually welcome it, because I think that there is room to level up in this space. I think that there's if someone comes in with the right attitude, the right work ethic, the knowledge for the game, the brain for it, and even has an eye for broadcast, then there are ways that this industry could improve. And so I'm not saying that it's not lock and key done. Tier 1 is set in stone. There are
Yep.
always people that are able to break in. It's just whether there is the talent. And I would even say to those people that are interested, the compensation will make it worth your time. Like, that's something that I don't think everybody knew back in the early 2010s, that the compensation for these kinds of gigs is also pretty good. But I just say that I would welcome more people to give strong efforts to be in positions like mine, because then it'll push me harder. So
Yeah.
I would welcome it. And I'd say for the haters, I'm still gonna say bad things about your favorite team. When they mess up, they're not free. And I also, one thing is that I personally, I do have biases. I do have teams that I like more. I'm not ashamed to say that I like NRG and M80. But I
Yeah.
also am extremely critical. I even said on Talking Counter, when I went on, there was a guest that I thought Swisher would be the one removed. I thought he should be the one removed for instead of Hext when they brought in JBA. So I don't pull any punches on any teams, even guys that I've been on teams with. So it's all the same. I don't hate anybody more than each other. I just call what I see in the server with what's happening, with what transpires. If anything, I just try to be as truthful as I can, but involving the eye test. I do not want to just read a stat sheet to you that you could read at home yourself and tell
Yeah.
you what those numbers mean. I'm trying to see through the numbers because I don't think rating 3.0 is perfect. I don't think any stat is perfect for telling the story of Counter-Strike. And so I am proud to be one of the people that is helping guide conversations and discourses in a space that is seemingly shifting more and more to the number side. I'm trying to keep it a little bit
Sadly.
more driven to involve the eye test.
Definitely. And that is why you're one of the best. Maui, thank you very much for all your time and going through all of this. That was the
Thank you.
story of Mauisnake given to us by SkinClub. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And there'll be some more content coming your way very soon. So thanks for watching. See you on the next one.